The Water of Paradise. Harith the Bedouin and his wife Nafisa, moving from place to place, pitched their ragged tent wherever a few date palms, grazing scrub for their camel, or a pool of brackish water were to be found. This had been their way of life for many years, and Harith seldom varied his daily round, trapping desert rats for their skins, twisting ropes from palm fibres to sell to passing caravans. One day, however, a new spring appeared in the sands, and Harith scooped a little of the water into his mouth. To him this seemed the very water of paradise, for it was far less foul than his usual drink. To us it would have seemed repulsively full of salt. "This," he said, "I must take to one who will appreciate it." He accordingly set off for Baghdad and the palace of Harun al-Rashid, travelling without pausing to do more than munch a few dates. Harith took 2 goat skins of water, one for himself, the other for the caliph. Days later he reached Baghdad and marched straight to the palace. The guards listened to his tale and, only because it was the rule, they admitted him to the public audience of Harun. "Commander of the faithful," said Harith, "I am a poor Bedouin, and know all the waters of the desert, though I may know little of other things. I have just discovered this water of paradise, and realizing that it was a fitting gift for you, have come at once to make it as an offering." Harun the Straightforward tasted the water, and because he understood his people, he told the guards to take Harith away and lock him up for a time until his decision might be known. Then, calling the captain of the guard, he told him, "What to us is nothing, to him is everything. Take him, therefore, by night from the palace. Do not let him see the mighty river Tigris. Escort him all the way to his tent without allowing him to taste sweet water. Then give him 1,000 pieces of gold and my thanks for his service. Tell him that he is the guardian of the water of paradise, and that he administers it for any traveller in my name, to be freely given away." This is also known as the story of the 2 worlds. It is related on the authority of Abu al-Atahir of the Aniza tribe, a contemporary of Harun al-Rashid, and founder of the Makshara or Reveller Dervishes, whose name is perpetuated by Mascara in Western languages. His followers have been traced to Spain, France, and other countries. Al-Atahir has been called the father of Arabic sacred poetry. He died in 828. The Horseman and the Snake. There is a proverb that the opposition of the man of knowledge is better than the support of the fool. I, Salim Abdali, bear witness that this is true in the greater ranges of existence, as it is true in the lower levels. This is made manifest in the tradition of the wise, who have handed down the tale of the horseman and the snake. A horseman, from his point of vantage, saw a poisonous snake slip down the throat of a sleeping man. The horseman realized that if the man were allowed to sleep, the venom would surely kill him. Accordingly, he lashed the sleeper until he was awake. Having no time to lose, he forced this man to a place where there were a number of rotten apples lying upon the ground, and made him eat them. Then he made him drink large gulps of water from a stream. All the while, the other man was trying to get away, crying, "What have I done, you enemy of humanity, that you should abuse me in this manner?" Finally, when he was near to exhaustion and dusk was falling, the man fell to the ground and vomited out the apples, the water, and the snake. When he saw what had come out of him, he realized what had happened and begged the forgiveness of the horseman. This is our condition. In reading this, do not take history for allegory, nor allegory for history. Those who are endowed with knowledge have responsibility. Those who are not have none beyond what they can conjecture. The man who was saved said, If you had told me, I would have accepted your treatment with a good grace." The horseman answered, "If I had told you, you would not have believed, or you would have been paralyzed by fright, or run away, or gone to sleep again, seeking forgetfulness, and there would not have been time." Spurring his horse, the mysterious rider rode away. Salim Abdali, 1700 to 1765, brought down upon the Sufis almost unprecedented calumnies from intellectuals for claiming that a Sufi master will know what is wrong with a man, and may have to act quickly and paradoxically to save him, thus incurring the fury of those who do not know what he is about. This story Abdali quotes from Rumi. Even today, there are probably not many people who will concede the claims inherent in the tale. Yet this statement has been accepted in one form or another by all Sufis. Commenting upon this, the master Haidar Gul says only, "There is a limit beyond which it is unhealthy for mankind to conceal truth, in order not to offend those whose minds are closed." Isa and the Doubters. It is related by the master Jalaluddin Rumi and others that one day Isa, the son of Miriam, was walking in the desert near Jerusalem with a number of people, in whom covetousness was still strong. They begged Isa to tell them the secret name by which Isa restored the dead to life. He said, "If I tell you, you will abuse it." They said, "We are ready and fitted for such knowledge. Besides, it will reinforce our faith." "You do not know what you ask," he said, but he told them the word. Soon afterwards, these people were walking in a deserted place when they saw a heap of whited bones. "Let us make a trial of the word," they said to one another, and they did. No sooner had the word been pronounced than the bones became clothed with flesh and retransformed into a ravening wild beast, which tore them to shreds. Those endowed with reason will understand. Those with little reason can earn it through the study of this account. The Isa of the story is Jesus, the son of Mary. It embodies a similar idea to that of the sorcerer's apprentice, and it also appears in Rumi's work and again in oral dervish legends of Jesus, of which there are a large number. Tradition invokes as one of its famous repeaters one of the first men ever to carry the title of Sufi, Jabir, son of El-Hayyan, the Latin Jaber, who is also the founder of Christian alchemy. He died in about 790. He was originally a Sabaean and, according to Western authors, made important chemical discoveries. In the street of the perfume sellers. A scavenger, walking down the street of the perfume sellers, fell down as if dead. People tried to revive him with sweet odours, but he only became worse. Finally, a former scavenger came along and recognized the situation. He held something filthy under the man's nose, and he immediately revived, calling out, "This is indeed perfume!" You must prepare yourself for the transition in which there will be none of the things to which you have accustomed yourself. After death, your identity will have to respond to stimuli of which you have a chance to get a foretaste here. If you remain attached to the few things with which you are familiar, it will only make you miserable, as the perfume did the scavenger in the street of the perfume makers. This parable explains itself. Ghazali uses it in the 11th century Alchemy of Happiness to underline the Sufi teaching that only some of the things of familiar existence have affinities with the other dimension. The Parable of the Greedy Sons. There was once a hard-working and generous farmer who had several idle and greedy sons. On his deathbed he told them that they would find his treasure if they were to dig in a certain field. As soon as the old man was dead, the sons hurried to the fields, which they dug up from one end to another, and with increasing desperation and concentration when they did not find the gold in the place indicated. But they found no gold at all. Realizing that in his generosity their father must have given his gold away during his lifetime, they abandoned the search. Finally, it occurred to them that since the land had been prepared, they might as well now sow a crop. They planted wheat, which produced an abundant yield. They sold this crop and prospered that year. After the harvest was in, the sons thought again about the bare possibility that they might have missed the buried gold, so they again dug up their fields with the same result. After several years they became accustomed to labour and to the cycle of the seasons, something which they had not understood before. Now they understood the reason for their father's method of training them, and they became honest and contented farmers. Ultimately, they found themselves possessed of sufficient wealth no longer to wonder about the hidden hoard. Thus it is with the teaching of the understanding of human destiny and the meaning of life. The teacher, faced with impatience, confusion, and covetousness on the part of the students, must direct them to an activity which is known by him to be constructive and beneficial to them, but whose true function and aim is often hidden from them by their own rawness. This story, underlining the claim that a person may develop certain faculties in spite of his attempts to develop others, is unusually widely known. This may be because it carries the preface, "Those who repeat it will gain more than they know." It was published both by the Franciscan Roger Bacon, who quotes the Sufi philosophy and taught at Oxford, from which he was expelled by order of the Pope, and the 17th century chemist Boerhaave. This version is attributed to the Sufi Hassan of Basra, who lived nearly 1200 years ago. The nature of discipleship. It is related by Ibrahim Khawas that when he was a youth he wanted to attach himself to a certain teaching master. He sought out this sage and asked to become his disciple. The teacher said, "You are not yet ready." Since the young man was insistent, the sage said, "Very well, I will teach you something. I am going on a pilgrimage to Mecca. Come with me." The disciple was overjoyed. "Since we are travelling companions," said the teacher, "one must lead and the other obey. Choose your role." "I shall follow, you lead," said the disciple. "I shall lead if you know how to follow," said the master. The journey started. While they were resting one night in the desert of the Hejaz, it started to rain. The master got up and held a covering over the disciple, protecting him. "But this is what I should be doing for you," said the disciple. "I command you to allow me to protect you thus," said the sage. When it was day, the young man said, "Now it is a new day. Let me be the leader, and you follow me." The master agreed. "I shall now collect brushwood to make a fire," said the youth. "You may do no such thing. I shall collect it," said the sage. "I command you to sit there while I collect the brushwood," said the young man. "You may do no such thing," said the teacher, "for it is not in accordance with the requirements of discipleship for the follower to allow himself to be served by the leader." And so, on every occasion, the master showed the student what discipleship really meant by demonstration. They parted at the gate of the holy city. Seeing the sage later, the young man could not meet his eyes. "That which you have learnt," said the older man, "is something of the nature of discipleship." Ibrahim Khawas, the palm weaver, defined the Sufi path as, "Allow what is done for you to be done for you. Do for yourself that which you have to do for yourself." This story underlines in a dramatic manner the difference between what the would-be disciple thinks his relationship with the teaching master should be, and what it actually would be. Khawas was one of the great early masters, and this journey is quoted in Hujwiri's Revelation of the Veiled, the oldest extant compendium of Sufism in Persian. The initiation of Malik Dinar. After many years' study of philosophical subjects, Malik Dinar felt that the time had come to travel in search of knowledge. "I will go," he said to himself, "seeking the hidden teacher, who is also said to be within my uttermost self." Walking out of his house with only a few dates for provision, he came presently upon a dervish plodding along the dusty road. He fell into step alongside him, in silence for a time. Finally the dervish spoke. "Who are you, and where are you going?" "I am Dinar, and I have started to journey in search of the hidden teacher." "I am El-Malik El-Fatih, and I will walk with you," said the dervish. "Can you help me to find the teacher?" asked Dinar. "Can I help you? Can you help me?" asked Fatih, in the irritating manner of dervishes everywhere. "The hidden teacher, so they say, is in a man's self. How he finds him depends upon what use he makes of experience. This is something only partly conveyed by a companion." Presently they came to a tree, which was creaking and swaying. The dervish stopped. "The tree is saying," he said after a moment, "something is hurting me. Stop a while and take it out of my side, so that I may find repose." "I am in too much of a hurry," replied Dinar, "and how can a tree talk anyway?" They went on their way. After a few miles the dervish said, "When we were near the tree, I thought that I smelt honey. Perhaps it was a wild bee's hive which had been built in its bowl." "If that is true," said Dinar, "let us hurry back, so that we may collect the honey which we could eat and sell some for the journey." "As you wish," said the dervish. When they arrived back at the tree, however, they saw some other travellers collecting an enormous quantity of honey. "What luck we have had," these men said. "This is enough honey to feed a city. We poor pilgrims can now become merchants. Our future is assured." Dinar and Fatih went on their way. Presently they came to a mountain on whose slopes they heard a humming. The dervish put his ear to the ground. Then he said, "Below us there are millions of ants building a colony." This humming is a concerted plea for help. In ant language it says, "Help us, help us. We are excavating but have come across strange rocks which bar our progress. Help dig them away." Should we stop and help, or do you want to hasten ahead? "Ants and rocks are not our business, brother," said Dinar, "because I, for one, am seeking my teacher." "Very well, brother," said the dervish. "Yet they do say that all things are connected, and this may have a certain connection with us." Dinar took no notice of the older man's mumblings, and so they went their way. The pair stopped for the night, and Dinar found that he had lost his knife. "I must have dropped it near the ant hill," he said. Next morning they retraced their way. When they arrived back at the ant hill, they could find no sign of Dinar's knife. Instead, they saw a group of people covered in mud resting beside a pile of gold coins. "These," said the people, "are a hidden hoard which we have just dug up. We were on the road when a frail old dervish called to us, 'Dig at this spot and you will find that which is rocks to some, but gold to others.'" Dinar cursed his luck. "If we had only stopped," he said, "you and I would both have been rich last night, O dervish." The other party said, "This dervish with you, stranger, looks strangely like the one whom we saw last night." "All dervishes look very much alike," said Fatih. And they went their respective ways. Dinar and Fatih continued their travels, and some days later they came to a beautiful riverbank. The dervish stopped, and as they sat waiting for the ferry, a fish rose several times to the surface and mouthed at them. "This fish," said the dervish, "is sending us a message. It says, 'I have swallowed a stone. Catch me and give me a certain herb to eat. Then I will be able to bring it up and will thus find relief. Travellers, have mercy.'" At that moment the ferry boat appeared, and Dinar, impatient to get ahead, pushed the dervish into it. The boatman was grateful for the copper which they were able to give him, and Fatih and Dinar slept well that night on the opposite bank, where a tea-house for travellers had been placed by a charitable soul. In the morning they were sipping their tea when the ferryman appeared. Last night had been his most fortunate one, he said. The pilgrims had brought him luck. He kissed the hands of the venerable dervish to take his blessing. "You deserve it all, my son," said Fatih. The ferryman was now rich. This was how it had happened. He was about to go home at his usual time, but he had seen the pair on the opposite bank and resolved to make one more trip, although they looked poor, for the barakah, the blessing of helping the traveller. When he was about to put away his boat, he saw the fish, which had thrown itself on the bank. It was apparently trying to swallow a piece of plant. The fisherman put the plant into its mouth. The fish threw up a stone and flopped back into the water. The stone was a huge and flawless diamond of incalculable value and brilliance. "You are a devil!" shouted the infuriating Dinar to the dervish Fatih. "You knew about all three treasures by means of some hidden perception, yet you did not tell me at the time. Is that true companionship? Formerly my ill luck was strong enough, but without you I would not even have known of the possibilities hidden in trees, ant-hills, and fish of all things." No sooner had he said these words than he felt as though a mighty wind were sweeping through his very soul. And then he knew that the very reverse of what he had said was the truth. The dervish, whose name means the victorious king, touched Dinar lightly on the shoulder and smiled. "Now, brother, you will find that you can learn by experience. I am he who is at the command of the hidden teacher." When Dinar dared to look up, he saw his teacher walking down the road with a small band of travellers who were arguing about the perils of the journey ahead of them. Today the name of Malik Dinar is numbered among the foremost of the dervishes, companion and exemplar, the man who arrived. Malik Dinar was one of the early classical masters. The victorious king of the story is an incarnation of the higher functions of the mind, called by Rumi the human spirit, which man must cultivate before he can function in an enlightened manner. This version is that of Emir el-Arifin. The Idiot and the Browsing Camel. An idiot looked at a browsing camel. He said to it, "Your appearance is awry. Why is this so?" The camel replied, "In judging the impression made, you are attributing a fault to that which shaped the form. Be aware of this. Do not consider my crooked appearance a fault." get away from me by the shortest route. My appearance is thus for function, for a reason. The bow needs the bentness as well as the straightness of the bowstring. Fool, begone! An ass's perception goes with an ass's nature. Maulana Majdud, known as Hakim Sanai, the illuminated reviving sage of Ghazna, writes extensively on the unreliability of subjective impressions and conditioned judgments. One of his sayings is, "In the distorting mirror of your mind, an angel can seem to have a devil's face." This parable is from his Walled Garden of Truth, which was written about 1130.